Good morning. Welcome to Weyerhaeuser Kalispell. Here we are in Evergreen, Montana at the Plywood and Sawmill manufacturing facility. My name's Zach Miller. I'm the log procurement for Weyerhaeuser here in Montana. And we're doing a quick little video series here, and I just wanted to inform you on about the log yard. So as you can see, we have a log truck exiting the scales where we weigh the material coming in. We also have another log truck coming onto the scales. So we require quite a few trucks per day in order to keep these mills running and the needed product in heading to the sawmill and plywood plant. The load behind us, you can see, is on a straight truck, and it weighs about anywhere between 25 to 30 tons. And this load here is a Doug fir plywood log load. So this is one of the first steps as the logs come in the mill. The truckers will take off the wrappers that are around the load to secure it as it goes down the highway. And so we have safety arms that come out, and they touch the load, and then they can pull the wrappers off of the load, and then the load is ready to be unloaded. So the next step in the process is the logs come across the scales and go through the wrapper station. Once the wrappers are pulled, they come to one of our two unloading locations. This here is what we call the sorters, since we have our stationary sorters. And we have our 988 wheel loaders to unload the trucks in one pick. This configuration is a truck and a pup. So the long logs are on the truck, and then the pup can haul the shorter logs. That's about 28 tons of logs. As you can see, safety is a big priority here at Weyerhaeuser. Truck drivers wear their hard hats and safety vests at all times, as well as anyone in the log yard. These logs here came from just north of Plains. What you can see behind me is the truck driver has what they call gun barrels, and those are rods that stick up on the side of their bunks to make sure that the logs don't roll off the trailer. So after the truck gets unloaded, it either goes to the mill to be fed onto the infeed, it either goes into a log deck, or it comes here to a sampling location where we sample the logs coming in to make sure they meet our quality specifications. So the scaler is there in the background, and he is assessing the length of the log, the diameter of the log, the species of the log, and the quality of the log. He's also measuring how many board feet are in the log based upon the diameter and length. Here is an example of fire salvage logs coming in from a fire that burned in 2020 down there next to Dixon. And as you can see, the bark is burned. However, the wood underneath the bark is not. And so we can peel the bark off and then still have salvageable wood underneath to use at our facility. So this location is the infeed to the sawmill and to the plywood plant. The sawmill is here to my right, and the plywood plant is here to my left. As you can see, the 988, or the loader, will pull logs off the truck and sometimes bring them here to the infeed, or he'll pull logs out of a log deck and bring them here to the infeed. Sets them on the chain, and then the chain will drop into a trough, and the log will go through the debarker, which is the green machine behind me. The debarker will take the bark off of the log, so it does the dirt and mud and just debris in the bark doesn't dull the saw blades later on down through the process. This part of the process is the block saw operator cab, and the logs have now come through the debarker. The bark is taken off. It goes up the conveyor up to the hammer hog, and then is put into the hog pile. Here the logs now that they're debarked, they're free of debris, or we like to hope so, and they travel down to the block saw. The block saws are set at a predetermined length, and they buck the log into segments, which then those segments will travel further on down inside the mill, where they are cooked in the vats and pretty much heated up and water added, so then they're ready to peel on the lathe. So behind me here you can see a conveyor and a pretty consistent stream of what we call our residuals, or a byproduct. The hog fuel that you can see behind me is used to provide energy to our boiler, and the boiler provides heat to dry the veneer or to dry the lumber that we have on site. The stacks that you can see behind me are water vapor going back into the atmosphere, and that's a result of the drying process. So as we provide heat to the wet lumber and to the wet veneer, moisture comes out, and that's the result. So as you can see, it just dissipates into the air. One thing on wood products in this facility is we're very sustainable. We have a lot of moving pieces here, but we use 98% of all the pieces that we bring in. The only thing that we don't use is ash as a result of the boiler and burning of the hog fuel. So there's plywood cores, and so that would be the center of the plywood log that is not usable on the lathe, and we off-sell those for landscape timbers to a neighboring company just down the road here. So we're very self-sufficient and very sustainable in this business. So now you've seen quite a bit of the process of the logs coming in through the gate, being weighed, wrappers undone and taken off, the truck being unloaded, and the logs being transported either to a deck, a log deck, or onto the infeed of the plywood plant or sawmill. Then you saw the logs debarked and then chopped up into pieces, into desired lengths to run through the plant. So today we're not going to go through the plant, but there are other videos available. But I did want to talk to you about, or do want to talk to you about, the end product and how we relate from a raw material such as this to a finished product such as this. So as you can see on our logs, this is the top of a peeler log of a larger diameter Doug fir, and you have your heartwood and then your sapwood, this white line that goes around it. So here is the center of the tree, and then each year this tree grows and puts a ring on, as you are all well aware of now. And so you can see all the rings on this tree. And then there's also what they call knots, which would be where the branches came out of the tree that go down the log and up the log, so as the branches come out. So if you look here on this 2x6 Doug fir piece of plywood or piece of lumber that we have our red heartwood and then the white sapwood, as well as a knot and a knot. And you can see here would be the center of the tree, and then each growth ring afterwards. So as that tree grows outwards. So this is one of the products that we make at the stud plant. This is a 2x6. We also make a 2x4 stud in the 8 or 9 foot lengths. This one's not 8 foot. So here is another product that we make at our location here in Evergreen. And this is a sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. And you can see the multiple layers of veneer within this sheet of plywood. And so what they do is after the log is blocked into the length like you saw, it gets chucked on a lathe and then peeled, almost like unrolling a sheet of toilet paper. And that sheet is what we call veneer. And then so here the wood grain is going this direction, and the sheet of veneer below, the wood grain will be going this direction. So you have an alternate layer of wood grain, which gives plywood its strength. On this sheet of plywood, you can also notice that there are what we call knots. And so you can see the distance between this series of knots, this line, and this line of knots, and then this line of knots. And so that is an indicator of how well the tree was growing before it was harvested. Because each year it grows vertical, which would be this direction, and then horizontal, which would be and put on limbs. So these are limbs going horizontally out of the tree, and then it grew this much, and then the next year here's your next set of limbs like we talked about in earlier videos, and so on and so forth. So it's just a way to see the transformation from a tree standing out in the forest, harvested, into a log, into a final product, and how it all relates, to look back at that tree. So in this sheet of plywood, you can almost see the direction of the veneer in the different colors. So just an example. Now you know why plywood has its strength. So here at our two facilities, we employ hundreds of people, and all of the people here are valuable individuals. They help this company thrive, and they help it operate safely and be productive. So from the sawmill to the plywood plant to the IT for computers to processing and payments, there's a lot of individuals that are employed just by harvesting trees and transporting them to the mill and turning that log into a final product. So it's a really beneficial thing to have a warehouser in the community as we give back to the community through our giving fund and donations and just involvement. It's very valuable to our community here in Kalispell and in Columbia Falls in northwest Montana. Some of the folks that are employed here have very specific trades, and I really want to emphasize that. They're welders or electricians or plumbers or processing control. There's a lot of very valuable and experts in their field here at this location and our other warehouser mills across the country. So we have mills countrywide, or throughout the country, from the northwest to the southeast and scattered in between, where there are wood products, and there's also distribution centers, and we also own a vast array of timberlands across the country. So, and then we also have mills in Canada, and where we really focus on wood products and the benefits. It's a true joy to work for Weyerhaeuser, I would say, as a forester and a log procurement. I do what I love, and it's just a very good company. We're focused on safety and employees and doing what's right in the community. So that's my thoughts on Weyerhaeuser, and I really appreciate you taking the time here today to just learn about forestry and logs and products, wood products manufactured here at Weyerhaeuser. Well, thanks today for joining me here at Weyerhaeuser Kalispell and at our Evergreen location, and really appreciate you taking the time and learning about wood products, as they are just so important to everyday life here in America and how we operate. So I mean, using wood products in toilet paper to toothpaste cellulose to you know, paper plates, or just the homes that we live in. So continue to use wood products because they are very sustainable. Right? These trees are out growing in the forest, and it's spring right now, and we just got a bunch of rain, and so they're growing like crazy right now, and they continue to grow. So we don't need to do anything to allow trees to grow, but we can harvest them and make sure that they continue to grow and have a good forest, healthy forest to grow in. So wood products, it's a very sustainable business. It's been happening for 100 years already, and we have more forests today than we had back in the turn of the century, or more trees today, I should say. Logs, logging, milling, they're really important to the community that we all live in. They provide our families jobs and wages, income, and continue to do so, and will continue to do so as long as we do it correctly. So I appreciate the time, and thank you for joining us here today at Weyerhaeuser.